You're listening to the Road to Wisdom podcast, weaving stories told by wonderful minds about all things motherhood, health, intimacy, politics, nature, and everything in between.
Join us on an adventure discovering unique experiences that we can learn from to enhance the ways in which we live.
We are your hosts, Chloe
and Keshia.
Welcome everyone to the Road to Wisdom podcast. Today we have Caitlin and Talia in for a little round two because, little disclosure, we actually recorded this episode before and then it got lost in the
ether world
somewhere. Anyway,
it was meant to be. We're meant to do a round two.
Yeah,
and also we just get to hang out. So bonuses, silver linings.
Silver linings. But Caitlin and Talia wrote a couple of books, the Nourishing Those Who Nurture, and I have to read it every time I say it because it's like, I don't know why, but my brain must be like missing a link somewhere. And so whenever I'm like, so if I read it, it's in there, it's good. So welcome back.
Welcome back.
Thanks, guys.
Yes.
We were just saying, can we use the video from the last one? Because I just clocked myself with the car on the way in.
And I've got a pimple today, so.
So we're so glad that we're recording this via video again.
I think my hair looks better today, though.
Yeah. Hair's on point. No, I'd love to start with and we did this last time, but here we are again, just sharing with everyone how awesome these books are, because me and Chloe were flicking through them and they're just so aesthetically pleasing. They're like the perfect coffee table book and very succinct in terms of information, going all the way from preconception through to postpartum. So, they are really, really beautiful. We really appreciated the aesthetics part of it as well as like just keeping it simple and concise.
Yeah.
So I know you guys did do that for a reason. Do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, I mean, Talia loves to handball this one to me, doesn't she? It's because I'm the beauty behind the business.
We all need one.
No, I've got a thing for aesthetics. No, but we just wanted to make it really accessible. Obviously, there's other books out there that focus on postpartum, and slowly more books are coming through in preconception now, which is awesome. But they can be really scientific or really heady, and we just wanted something that's really beautiful and all-encompassing, because motherhood is obviously really challenging, but there's so much beauty in it as well, and the female form is so stunning. So that's why we wanted to add as much into that as we can. And, there's nothing like a beautiful hardback but also practical book on your coffee table, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And I think, one of the biggest feedbacks we're getting about it, are people just buying it and being like, I literally read it in a week. And that's what I want. Like, it's so easy to read. It's simple. Like, there's a lot of information in terms of a lot of subheadings and segments, but each of them is really easy and simple. And that was something that we wanted to do as well. And that's the same with the recipe part of the book as well. There's beautiful postpartum books that have beautiful recipes, and I look at them and I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of ingredients, and that method, that's not going to happen. So that was something that we were really vigilant about too. We were like, okay, the recipes, we want them to be super nourishing, obviously, but also really easy and simple for women, families to cook. So yeah, that was really important to us for sure.
And to obtain ingredients as well. There's nothing worse than opening up a recipe book and you're like, I don't even know what that thing is. Where do I get it from? Where does it grow? What is it?
Yeah. And I think you see that especially in the postpartum. So the postpartum one's the one we did first. So that we released in 21. And I think you see that in the postpartum world because a lot of it is TCM based, and you see a lot of recipes where it's half the stuff you're like, I can't get my hands on that.
I actually have a really funny story. I should share it about the first 40 days book.
What did you do?
Quick, let's get out our cups of tea.
Yes.
No, it's really funny because I only really discovered that book with my second baby, so 7 years ago or more, because it was at the start of my pregnancy. And I was like, I am making it my goal. I'm going to have 40 days and I'm going to have all these ingredients. And anyway, we were traveling and doing heaps of stuff during that pregnancy. And so by the end of it, I was like, oh shit, I got to get all this stuff. And so I had a list of all the wild ingredients, and some of it we've had and some of it we is normal to us, especially all the, I don't know, whatever it was. But anyway, I ended up having my baby at 35 weeks unexpectedly. And so I'd left the list of ingredients for Brenton to get whilst I was in the hospital, because I was like, now, like the urgency was like I had nothing prepared and I needed it, and I knew I was like so hell bent on having this well-fed experience. And anyway, he went to Helen's Bulk Foods in Burleigh with his mum and our then almost 2-year-old, and he was like looking around Helen's trying to get all this shit, and Birdie had done the biggest monster shit all over him whilst in Helen's, and with my mother-in-law. And anyway, it was just like total chaos. But like, I don't want to go into detail because we're all happy to get beverage, but like I'm talking like
we know. I feel like everyone
and he was on the phone to me just like, Goji Barry, like, what the fuck is this for? Like, why do we need, like, anyway? And I'm just like, it's a lot funnier for us, I think, actually, because we're like always talk about Brenton's mum being like, Brenton, we need to leave now, because she's like copying it all while he's like, and he's just, no, she needs this, like, this is what she needs, and blah, blah, and she's just like, good.
Did he get everything?
No, not everything.
I was about to say, I'm impressed with the commitment.
He was
to that.
so committed, and love him for it. But poor Fiona, she was just like covered in shit. And she's like, I bet she would have been like, oh, why did she need this? Like, what the fuck? Anyway, postpartum books. It's great when you don't need complex ingredients. Is the point of this story and this share. But yeah, you guys started with the postpartum book first, though, didn't you? And then went back and did the preconception,
which seems a bit odd, but
I feel like we all did that
journey
first. Like we were all much more like, oops, pregnant.
Shit, no one does postpartum care,
and then like, we've got to do postpartum, and then we're like, oh, actually, like that preconception thing is
a big thing.
It's a bit of a spiral.
Yeah,
kind of like the birth spiral, right?
Yeah. Well, so we did the postpartum book when I was in my first postpartum, and I just felt like there wasn't anything tangible that had all the things. Like I felt like I was, thankfully, like due to my background and upbringing and all that, I kind of had the resources, but I was like, hang on, it would be so great to have them all in one. And so I reached out to Caitlin because she's a legend. And I was like, we need to put this into a book that's all in one. And Caitlin actually wasn't even, I mean, you were a few years before. Yeah. But she was one of those crazy women. Well, not crazy, like amazing women. I just wasn't one of those amazing maidens that was just so invested in postpartum. Like she did my baby blessing and was really like, okay, I want to make sure you're having like broth and all the things in your postpartum. Yeah, there's a lot of maidens in this area who are really supportive in that space. And that's incredible, because I cringe to think I have this one friend of mine who's so beautiful. And I remember going around to her place when she had like a 7-month-old, and she made me banana bread, and I'm sitting there, and I actually allowed that, and I'm pretty sure she made the cups of tea too. And I'm like, I can't believe I did that. Very cringy. Anyway.
You cringe at that. But like, how many of us have come from a family situation where like family would come over to meet the baby in the first few weeks, and you're hosting as the woman who has just pushed said baby out. So you're like, yeah, I mean, I have done it with my 4 days postpartum. Yeah. We were like hosting, and yeah, so to just do a banana bread at 7 months postpartum, hey, that's like pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah. And I mean, we talk about that in the book. We talk about like visitors and boundaries and things like questions, which I think is really important to like ask yourself and the people around you. Like, who do I want in that space afterwards? What do I actually want them doing in that space afterwards? Because, yeah, I had that same experience with my first. All the family came over on day 2, and I'm getting everyone cups of teas, and I was wrecked afterwards. So with my second, I was like, no one. Like my sister lives 15 minutes from us, and she didn't come and visit the baby till week 4, because I was like, I actually just
need to rest.
Need that space. You know, they didn't take it that great probably, but, you know, I just was, because of my first experience, I was like, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah. And you don't realize, like, because, I mean, I grew up quite conventionally around birth, and you don't realize how draining the birth process is, and then that whole postpartum period, because we see movies where, you know, women bounce back, and like you're just up and doing things, and you're taking your new baby out, and you're showing off your new baby, and like, I don't, did you ever see that thing on activewear? There was like a whole like meme song people listening to this will know what I mean if I start singing it. It's like activewear, showing off my baby in my activewear. No, there was like a whole thing. Oh my God. I could be
Google
alone
it when I get home.
Google it. I should we need a Jamie to bring it up and play it for everyone.
Jamie.
Young Jamie.
So what was it?
Could you bring that up for us?
What was it promoting?
No, it was like a meme song. Like it was just a joke.
Okay.
But it was like paying out Brighton women in their activewear, basically.
Right.
Yeah. They wear their activewear everywhere except for being active. And but it came with that culture of you just go out with your baby straight after and now you're not pregnant. You're not tired anymore. But it's well, maybe in a few months' time or years. I'm still waiting for it. But it was like that. That was the culture around it, which is crazy. I mean, not in this area, obviously, but that's why we all moved here.
I definitely know people in this area still that have definitely read my book, our book, and are not doing things properly in the postpartum period though.
I think it's still a relearning though.
I
see mothers struggle to stop and struggle to rest and struggle to be supported and held. And I just had a preconception client this week, and that's what I said to her. If you can learn that, how to be supported and held and rest, that's going to be such a big key to your postpartum.
Receive
and
is
to
a
receive.
huge one.
There's a lot of cultural belief systems around it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I'm not fuck the patriarchy, sorry for my French, but the patriarchal kind of programming that came into the world, and then we obviously birthed feminism and all of that. It's definitely done a number on us in the way that we feel like we have to act like little men to have value in the world. Mm-hmm. And I think there's still a detangling around that, especially when it comes to birth.
Massive.
I'm a very masculine woman. I do a lot. I have my own businesses. I'm always wanting to birth new projects, new things. That's just kind of my way. But it's a really big detangling for me, and I've done a bloody, a whole section of it in the book. It's so ingrained in us to get up and go. And then of course you have the generation before us that are oh, I just had a baby and got on with it. That's just what we did. I'm congratulations, Cheryl.
Bloody Cheryl.
But
on that, and we did talk about this last time. I think you brought it up, Chloe. You look at people like Yolanda, Norris Clark, who's yeah, it is. You just have a baby and get on with it. And she does, and she pulls that off so well. So there is that's
right now. We don't know. 10 years? Let's check it out.
I know, but have you seen, we interviewed her when she was pregnant with her 10?
She can recite a novel.
Yeah.
She's just
her
so
vocabulary was out of control. She was a few weeks off giving birth, and her vocabulary, I was just how? And we were just halfway through our pregnancies, in the phase that you should be glowing and bouncy and stuff. And we're both just what's my words? And I'm I just don't understand how you do it. And she looks younger after every human she pops out. It's insane.
But I do wonder, taking it back from a tribal perspective, is I don't think women should be so disabled during pregnancy. We are all just so fatigued and so it just, of course we are. It's not because of pregnancy or childbirth or anything. It's because of the external, these environments and systems which we are intertwined in, that is what makes us like that. It's actually, I don't believe at all that it's pregnancy and childbirth and postpartum is a burden on our physical bodies. It's just that it's everything else, and it's just there's so much.
This is a good segue into preconception.
Yeah.
I reckon.
Take it away.
I feel though a lot of women, I mean, I know a couple of women in this area who don't lay down for 40 days, but I feel they are very strong-bodied and able, and I do feel there are probably women living certain lifestyles or living in certain ways that would facilitate being able to do certain things much more than most of us. But most of us don't really tick those boxes or live certain ways or spent many years being raised a certain way or doing a certain thing or having the mental, it's also a mental thing too, right? It's like a mental
capacity.
Yeah, resilience, like having a robust,
I think that's
basically
huge.
everything.
The mental component to pregnancy, birth, preconception and postpartum. I think that's the key that a lot of people don't actually chat about. And again, we chat about that in both books, but I think there is such a mental component to it all.
I do think there's also the gene component, which is it's pretty big. I think like obviously you can turn genes on and off. That's obviously like the epigenetics. If you guys don't know about that, I don't mean you guys, but I mean the people that are listening. You know, genes are like light switches, so they can turn on in situations where there's a lot of like external or environmental stresses or even just stress in general. Or like for me, I was really badly exposed to mold. So that was like something that turned on a gene for me, which like led into chronic fatigue. And yeah, it was a big journey. I can talk about that more later. But also like I was a child that was conceived just up the road on New Brighton Beach while my parents were stoned and drunk. And then my mum just kept smoking and drinking the whole pregnancy. She only broke that to me recently. Rude. She's like, yeah, I had a few joints. And then she's like, I drank and smoked the whole time. I was like, thank you, Mum. That explains a lot. Like so much. I think last time we talked about the prenatal Jing thing.
Yeah.
So I might talk about it again.
Yeah, please.
Because in Chinese medicine, they say prenatal Jing is like what you kind of get given. It's your reserves that you get given at the beginning. So I don't have a lot of prenatal Jing because of what I just explained. But if my parents had been more of a Puritan like me and my partner and got prepared and did detoxes and all of that, then my prenatal Jing would be better. And so your prenatal Jing you can't really get back. That's what the Chinese medicine doctors say, but you can maintain it. But, you know, if you do really strenuous things, like if you drink lots of ayahuasca or you like are a bloody base jumper and, you know, things like that, that can really eat away at your prenatal Jing as well because it's your kidney energy. But yeah, it's like pretty important to maintain your prenatal Jing as a mother, especially because once it's gone, you can't get it back. Yeah, so it's pretty important if you want to give your children good prenatal Jing, which is that vitality and robustness and, you know, ability to overcome not just like physical stresses, but like life stresses as well. It's really important to focus on prenatal Jing, which is what we do a lot in the preconception book. We didn't write about it in the book.
Not necessarily about Jing, no.
My bad. Maybe next run we'll write about it again. We'll do a little chapter on it. Because yeah, it's essentially like that's what preconception preparation is about, is getting good prenatal Jing for your kids.
I love that. I love like that kidney energy. I spoke about it with Prema, actually, who was my postpartum doula.
Same.
Yeah.
Thanks, Prema.
Hey, Prema. But yeah, and she spoke about that energy and like also with each consecutive child, it's kind of like they each get less as you go on. It was so fascinating. And I'm like, so it also made me feel a bit better because I had no idea and no intention around rest and recovery through my first pregnancy and postpartum. But with each child, by circumstance, I did bring in more of the rest and recovery and nourishment as we went along. And I'm like, okay, so maybe they've got even Jings. We spread out the Jing.
But even, you spread out the Jing for sure. But what's interesting on that, like something else that happens through pregnancy, which I think this is to me like a human default. Like I think our bodies are amazing, but two of the things I find so odd that actually occur is one, when you fall pregnant, it's the biggest detox for a woman, which is why I think preconception is so important. There was a study done by Dr. Sarah, can't remember her last name, and she looked at umbilical cords and placentas. Was it placentas? Pretty sure. Yeah, I think she also looked at placentas. And found on average 250 chemicals per baby, which blows my mind. And some of the things she was finding had been banned 6 years ago. So that just kind of shows how our soil and air and water and all those things. But what happens in relation to that in terms of your babies is the first baby gets dumped with it all. But then further on, you know, they actually don't get as much of a detox. And that's why we really speak about this. Like we talk about gentle detoxing in preconception, and but like why it's so important, so that you're not passing on all those things to your baby. And then when you're breastfeeding, that's another port where a lot of those toxins go out the breast milk too, which
Have they, in the study, does it explain, like, because this is really fascinating, does it explain how they proved that the chemicals were actually absorbed by the baby, or was it just found in the placenta?
no, so I'm wondering if it was the placenta. It was definitely the umbilical cord.
Or like,
so
did they test the baby after they're born and found like heavy metals, or like, how do you make
They didn't
that,
test-
how do they make the conclusion that all of that means dumping onto your child?
Yeah, so they didn't. So has some of it been filtered? Sure, probably, potentially. But I'm sure some of that has filtered through. So yeah, whether those 250 chemicals have all filtered through to the actual baby, maybe not. But then I think, you know, not going into too much detail, but you look at some of the diseases and things that are very prevalent now, and you look at those in terms of heavy metals and toxicity and, you know, women, mothers are like, well, how come, you know, they're just born and they're already this
You know
sick?
what else would be
Yeah.
really fascinating to understand is, like, you know how all our organs regenerate over actually quite a short amount of time. Like, most of those would actually have regenerated during a pregnancy. So I wonder if like the placenta has a regeneration period.
I don't know. It would be,
Interesting.
yeah.
I mean, God forbid they do a study on a woman's body, you know? We'll probably find out in 50 years, Chloe.
Honestly. Yeah, I'm fascinated though.
I mean, you can kind of see what Talia is saying, though, in, okay, like, full disclaimer, this is just an clinical opinion from my own clinical experience, but obviously we're seeing a massive rise in things like autism and neurodivergence and stuff like that at the moment. Obviously, like, anyone that's on the path is definitely, you know, every man and his dog has all of a sudden got ADHD. So, you know, I do wonder, like, the links between things like that and, like I was saying before, that epigenetic thing, or even just things like methylation, which it's too long and lengthy for me to explain. Maybe Talia could explain it better
We've
than
gone
me.
into it
You've gone
actually
into
in a
it.
previous
Great.
podcast. Yeah, with
So
Lauren
listen to that.
Sophia Loren. So Lauren Sophia. What?
She's a model.
Yeah, we had old Sophia Loren on the podcast.
Who? What? Can you?
Lauren Sophia.
Lauren Sophia.
Yeah.
It's just
Okay.
the name back to front. Yeah, so if you don't know about methylation, definitely
sorry,
listen to that. Definitely listen to that episode, because my partner took our 1-year-old to the chiro the other day because she's had like really big issues with sleep, and I was like, something's not right. Like, I just knew something was off, and this whole time I'm like, it has to be a tie. Like, I just had this feeling. But part of my gene pool is I'm an undermethylator. So I've always known, well, for the last like 6 or 7 years, I've got a methylation issue. The reason that I went so deeply into my own preconception thing is because I really wanted to do everything I could to ensure that my children didn't get my methylation issue, because basically my partner's like a Trojan horse. Like, he is, like, I basically mated with him. I mated with him because his genes are so damn good. Thank you, Jackson. I was like, look, there's me a bit weak, but Jackson's strong.
Me?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was a purely reproductive. No, I'm joking. I love him, but it was a good genetic match in that regard. And yeah, we took her to the chiro, and the woman said, it looks like she might have a methylation issue as well, because you can tell by the dimples in her lower back. And I was like, fuck. Sorry, am I allowed to swear on this podcast? Because I've done it a few times now. Yeah, I was like, oh, damn. But it doesn't mean that her gene will necessarily turn on or that it will dictate the way that she is. But it's just interesting that I did so much preparation for it. And again, we don't know. We haven't tested her or anything like that. But it's just interesting that she's got the body signaling for having a gene, and therefore, yeah, it just means that even after doing lots and lots of work, it's still there. And then it's just maintaining her lifestyle and her environment through her life so her gene doesn't turn on and dictate her the way that it does for me, which is hard. Undermethylating is really challenging, especially with hormones and stuff like that.
It's so interesting. So do they say that, like, if you're an undermethylator, your children will most likely be undermethylated, or it's kind of like something depicts it?
It's a gene thing. It's like, you know, our children are going to inherit what is it? Like, what's the stat? What does a girl get? She's like 49% or something.
Oh, you're testing me here. It's really close. Yeah. One of them's more. Yeah, I think the girl is 49%.
And then so 49% from the mum and 51 from the dad.
Yeah.
So, like I look at my daughter and she's like so her dad, but then she's just got that little bit of me in there, and it's just like, okay, well, yeah, I am glad that we did so much testing because then, so much preconception preparation because, yeah, now I can kind of see, okay, maybe she's going to have that methylation issue, and we just have to really make sure we mediate that so that during her life it's not something that ends up ruling her the way that it does for me, because I find it really challenging, the hormonal aspect. And even after doing all this preconception and having 40 days at home with postpartum doulas and all of the food and all of the things, like I still found my postpartum hard because my hormones were just dumping so badly, So it's like I'm a postpartum educator and a preconception educator, and I've still got my own stuff in that. So you can never be perfect, but it'll be interesting to see as like the next ones come along, like what that looks like.
Because I definitely think, there's a lot more, and I know we talked about this, like I see it in clinic, like I've been working in preconception for over 10 years now, and at the start it was, people would come, but it was kind of here and there, and definitely the partners were never involved, even though I was like, make sure your partners come. So I would always write up a prescription for them that would just get passed on, and God knows what happened with that. But now we see like both partners are coming, and honestly, it's probably the majority of my clients at the moment are preconception. So people are actually really thinking about it, which is epic. So people are thinking about like what their babies are going to be like, what their bodies are going to be like going into that, because why wouldn't you, both partners, want to be like the best versions of yourself? So yeah, I'm so like gives me goosebumps. I'm just like, it's so epic that people are getting on this path now.
Because I think we said again last time that like people will spend like $100,000 on their wedding or something.
Yeah.
On their wedding bodies.
Yeah. And then like I still can't believe how many people were shocked. They were like, you just worked all last year. Like I worked so hard in my pregnancy to like get a good kitty for us put away. I said to my partner, like, postpartum's so important to me. Like I'm just going to save what I can do. And I saved like $15,000, and that basically kept us afloat. It paid for our postpartum doulas. It just like gave my partner the time off. Our meal train was abundant and overflowing because my friends love me, and I've cooked for them so many times. I've cooked for so many people. I was like, this will come back to me.
Unless everyone's pregnant at the same time and birthing at the same time, which is pretty much what happened to me.
Next year it's coming.
I remember actually before you'd even conceived Ollie and you were cooking. I just remember being on the phone. You're like, yep, I'm cooking for someone who just had a baby. You're like, it's strategic. So even then you were totally inviting in a fifth child. But you're like,
good karma.
Don't worry, it's strategic. This is strategic.
Chloe, if you go number 6, I'll be there for you, babe.
Oh yeah, I'll hold you.
I'll come over.
But where's the meal?
She is an amazing cook.
I will.
You want that.
Oh, no doubt about it.
I want that for you.
I'm not having a 6, baby. So
okay.
we're good.
When she was like,
I'll take a meal though. It's never too late, right? They say.
No.
Yeah.
You're still in postpartum, babe.
when Chloe was like, oh, I think I'm pregnant, and I was totally denying the fact that I too was also pregnant. I'm like, oh my God, it'll be great because I will cook for you and I'll be able to like look after your kids. Like I'll just take the 4 and you can have like a really chill time, and I'll be able to like help out and look after you and all this stuff. Aww. And then like a few days later, you're like, you're pregnant too, right? I'm like, no, I'm not, because I'm going to keep the podcast going and I'm going to look
I was like,
you.
yeah, we're both
I can
pregnant.
cook for you.
Like, we're 100% both pregnant. I just know it. No.
Wow.
And then
I love that.
even the message I got, like Chloe just sent me a photo once Ollie was born. I didn't even know the gender or anything. You just sent me a photo that night. And I was just like, I messaged Brenton, I think, the next morning. I'm like, hey, I'll bring a meal down for you. And it was like the worst day of my life. I was like so not in the mood for it. And then literally 24 hours later, I was like, Brenton, I can't bring a meal down, and sent him a photo of Marco.
Sorry, not eating tonight.
Margot was just like, you are not helping.
Yeah.
You are not being helpful.
This is a good tip.
Yeah.
This is a really good topic though, because in society, it's like the mothers that are holding the mothers together.
Yeah, we've actually been speaking a lot about this lately.
Yeah.
In our,
Maidens, where
and
are
I've actually
you?
I've got a friend who she was just like, Oh, we were just like having a rage in our voice messages, like all mums, like let's be honest, we do it. And she was like, I'm just so fucking over mums holding mums. Like I'm over it. I am over it.
Those
I've
mums that
not
hold
said
mums.
it. I have not said it. But why the fuck are we all holding each other with our babies in our arms? Like where is everybody else? And I was like, you know what? It's true. Like it is true.
Yeah.
But who?
And here's the thing.
Like it's always mums with their little newborn strapped to them or their babies taking a rest in their carriers cooking for a new mum. And it's like, that's beautiful and amazing. But it's also like, we're all in this season.
Yeah,
together. It's like,
Which I think is
It's
why
like
we
there's
grew.
no- there's
no
We're
one
like,
else.
I get it, and I want them to
I
be
know what you're going
nourished
through.
and-
Yeah.
but it's also not the time.
not
right.
nourishing.
It's not right.
But it's that
Yeah.
thing we were speaking about before about receiving and like,
Yeah.
you know, like getting your system set up.
But the thing is that if the mothers, like, and here's what I get really crunchy about, it's like if it wasn't for mothers holding mothers, mothers wouldn't be held at all.
this is what
and
I
that's
mean.
where
But
we're
that
at.
doesn't make it
And so,
right.
and yeah, and I think, and this episode will actually come out before we release our episode with Dr. Paige Williams. But we were talking with Dr. Paige Williams, and like one of the things that I didn't bring up in that conversation was, like we were talking about the information receiving by osmosis, by living in like those really villagey environments where like you are with all your aunties and uncles and you see people raising children differently around you and you grow up with that and like you're growing up with cousins and like seeing all the different behaviors and like and just absorbing it as you grow up. And so like because you're constantly in like an environment where babies are being born and you're helping like the elderly and you're learning from them and like everyone's working together in this really cohesive way. Because we don't have that anymore, it's like we're missing these like generations that could be doing so much more for the group, and instead we've kind of like, and we spoke about this actually with Michaeline,
Yes.
as
It
well.
reminds me of her stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's like we've cut like kids out from helping, like, and their job is to play, and like, and then our teens, their job is to find themselves and discover new things and like go out and enjoy the world, and like that goes into your 20s, and it's like it's all like very like we encourage a really self-centered approach to life, and from that like they miss out on
The
learning and
responsibility
growing,
of like holding the community and
but
everybody.
even just like learning as well and being able to be with grandparents and hang out with everyone's parents and like there's this whole like cohesiveness that we're missing. And so when it comes to like older teens being able to like hold the fort down a little bit more when we have our kids, or like our parents or parents' friends or aunties and uncles that would usually hold the fort down, or even just like our cousins that are a little bit older or whatever, that would be able to help in that situation, that's all been removed, especially because so many of us around here have left our family situation. Like, I think most people.
Not me,
except-
though.
Not you. No. You're an OG,
I'm
mate.
in it.
You're an OG.
My mum lives downstairs. And well, actually, at the moment, my best friend is staying. She's been here for a week, and it has been life-changing for me, having her there and my mum there. It's like, I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm a maiden. Do I even have a child? Like the other day, like my friend brings my baby to swimming, and like I could go to this thing with Talia. You know, it's just like, it's been such an incredible opening up. But, you know, also that friend of mine doesn't have children, and so she like is so good in that auntie role because there's responsibility that's not there in a certain way. Obviously she's got lots of other responsibilities, but
And she gets it.
she gets it. And like, and it's not that she's a maiden by any sense because she's in her mid-40s and stuff like that, but she's like, you know, that is one of those friends. And I personally value friends and my maiden friends that do get it. Because it's not like I feel like I'm a mother, so like the whole world needs to revolve around me. But kind of in terms of my family unit, the world is kind of revolving around me because I'm holding the whole thing together, right? And I think that's what we need to kind of discuss or identify more. And we do talk about that in both of the books as well. It's like identifying who those people are, like opening up those conversations.
Yeah.
In preconception as well, like we don't really have like values conversations with our partners. Like the amount of friends of mine that are like, oh my God, we're having the biggest fight because I don't want to vaccinate and he wants to vaccinate the kids. I'm like, did you not talk about that before you had a child? Like these are the kinds of things that can break families down, like co-sleeping or breastfeeding or whatever, you know.
Rebirthing versus hospital birthing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something we've spoken about too. It's huge, but it's good. It's good, I think, having the conversation about where the deficiencies lie, like what would have been and where we're coming from now, and then how to best maneuver and reinstall some of that help and support and like cohesive family life.
It doesn't even have to be like, I mean, we was just talking about this the other day, like it's not that it's so hard because it's hard to be mother or it's hard to have your body go back together. It's not, none of that is inherently like hard. It's that like we're just doing it so alone. And like back in the day, women would have not done anything alone. Like we would have collected water together, we would have washed linen together, we would have did the gardening together, we would have had a baby with us. And I think like the togetherness actually diffuses the hardship of I think a lot in motherhood. And they're big things that we're missing, and I feel like personally really missing that, or like realizing that is such a loss for me. And like you're the same. I've spoken to so many women lately who are just like aching for the togetherness of women, not even just in postpartum or preconception. It's like life in general. And I feel like because if you really think about it, like it's not hard having children. It's not that it can be. I'm just looking at it from a different lens of like, it's only because we're so alone in it. And so like when you say, oh, like my friend and like I've got my mum here, it's like, of course that would still be like nothing's changed. Like your baby still wakes up a million times. You still got to breastfeed a million times. You still got to like eat a million times a day. It's like, but it's the togetherness of it. It just changes like everything.
The whole dynamic.
Like my mum will take my daughter for a walk in the afternoon for half an hour, go see the bats. Very strange Nana activity, by the way. She goes and takes this clacker and takes her up. My partner and I are like, that's a bit fucking weird. But anyway, she loves it.
Half an hour.
They clack it and the bats freak out. Anyway, we'll deal with that later in therapy maybe.
Your child will.
Yeah, she will. That's what I mean.
Not
Why
you.
did you let her do that? I don't know.
Mum's the best.
She's out there. Mum's out there. Anyway, she's a great nana. But, you know, it's just like half an hour a day. I'm like, oh, just quickly. And like I'm a quick cook. Obviously, I did all the recipes in the book, so I can like whip it all together. You know, but I can like quickly bang out dinner and like she's gone. She's having a great time with Nana. And also like she doesn't want to hang out with me all the time anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like we have to expect that our children also want to like hang out and have like different interfacings of people and energies and stuff like that as well.
Well, they're missing out if they don't get that.
Yeah.
Like if they don't get to experience other people, if they just experience us and then it's like they hit 18, you're like, go enjoy life, and they have no idea how to like read a room or interact with people. Anyway.
I think, you know, I actually said this to my partner this week. I've always been obsessed with tribes and like watching documentaries on tribes, and I'm so shattered that I didn't go and stay with a tribe pre-becoming a mum because I feel like there's so much wisdom that we could all learn from how they are. I know a friend just went this year, sorry. She went to Colombia, and then I don't know where from Colombia she went, but she went and stayed with the tribe for a couple of days, and she's got 2 kids, and she said it was just amazing. I mean, probably quite similar to the Hunt Gather parent book, but just how they are, and that's what I think. I'm just reiterating that's what we're really missing.
I think it's in Indonesia, children don't touch their feet to the ground till they're 3 months old, and then they have a whole ceremony around that, and that's because everybody's picking the baby up. So the baby never touches the ground because they see the baby in that ethereal realm still. And then like on that 3 month mark, they're like, all right, you're rooted in your body, and then it's different, but it just shows you that like, you
there's
know,
so many hands
there's
there.
a system. Yeah.
It's so funny too. Like when you go traveling, I remember going to Indo when, I was just pregnant with Rue. So Humphrey was like 1 and a bit and Willow was nearly 3. And like, they just take your kids. It's so like pro children over there. They're just like, oh, there are kids there. Like, come and learn what I'm doing. Like, there was someone who was like, they were like, it was one of the people bringing out the food, and he's like, yeah, come and have a look, like what I'm doing, and like just took Humphrey with him, and Humphrey just sat on his hip, and like we could see him the whole time, but he was like helping serve food around the restaurant, and like, this goes back to Hunt Gather Parent as well, which if you're listening, go back last week, it was great. But yeah, it was just such a like a oh, can I touch it? Like there was no like, oh, can I touch your baby or can I take your baby?
No, they just steal your baby.
Yeah, it just picked me up and was like, hey, we're going to go do this. Yeah, carry the spoon for me. Like it was really.
The normality.
It's so normal. And it's something, yeah. And I think like when you grow up with like that, you know, you've got everyone, all the ages, everyone around you, you would just grow up knowing how to pick up a baby and like just it would just be such a second nature.
And
like,
I think that's why we get so confused as well, because it's so not in our realm to witness it and observe it as children and growing up. We actually only have books, and I think that's when things get super lost in translation. It's like, oh, the book said not to see anyone for 40 days, and then you're like crying by day 10 because you're like,
you need company.
so isolated. You're like, yeah, but this is how you're supposed to do it, and it's like, well, actually no. It's like, and so we have to go through. I was just talking to my friend, and like we've been talking about this so much, but like we both have just come to the decision that we're probably like everything that we do or we've tried to do the last decade of parenting, we're probably going to look back on and be like, why the fuck did we do that? Like that was just, I caused my own suffering by trying to do like 40 days in bed, or like, even though it's important, but like you think you're translating a piece of information a certain way, but realize by experiencing it and having to go through it, that it was actually probably the biggest cause of your own grief and stress. And it's just shame that we have to walk it first in order to get it right, or sometimes make all of the mistakes because we just don't have.
Well, it's just like the elements of that practice, which has been a traditional practice for so long. There's so many elements that are missing if you don't have a village around you to support you doing that.
Yeah, well, we're not in like Hong Kong or Malaysia where you can go and spend 30 grand on a beautiful hotel and, you know, get looked after. They call them the soup ladies over there. Yeah, the soup ladies will come and like do everything for you and wash your feet, or not wash your hair because they don't let you do that in really hardcore traditional. But when you're saying that, you know, 40 days lying in bed or not having people and stuff, like I did the 40 days and I went out a few times and I loved it, but I had so many visitors.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to see anyone. And I was so high on oxytocin. My partner and I were laughing the other day. We're like, let's never sign a birth certificate and a birth name again that high on oxytocin. Because our daughter's name is Maple Rose Blossom. We love it, but we're like, okay, that was definitely an oxytocin-induced decision.
You guys were so high.
We were so high.
It was amazing.
But I think we were so high because we had prepared so much.
Yes.
You know, like the day after I gave birth, I had a really long labor, 4 days, crazy birth. Anyway, like the next day I had the postpartum doula coming in. I had Naomi come in and give me acupuncture. Like it actually gave me the space to keep my oxytocin high, and my milk came in beautifully. And, you know, like I still had its stuff like hormones and a split nipple and, you know, things like that. But it's like I had that opportunity because we'd set that structure up really well. And that was also, you know, even in preconception, like I was harping on about having this baby. I think all my friends are like, I have never talked to anyone that has prepared for a baby in the way that you have prepared for a baby, other than maybe Talia.
Yeah, we were both pretty committed.
We were really into it, you know. But, you know, for us it was like amazing that we did that, because then we did get pregnant the first go. And again, like it's variable and it's not going to be like that for everyone. But I think we did everything we could to get really good fertility. And yeah, I was preparing my friends for my postpartum way before the baby was even here. But actually segueing to Talia, because Talia did like the most in-depth preconception ever.
Yeah, well, I guess, so I have had 4 pregnancies. The first one did end in a miscarriage, so I have 3 living children. And all preconceptions have been different, but there has been a conscious preconception that I have done for each of my pregnancies. And that was something that was super important to me. So with my first, it was 18 months, and then I did miscarry, and then there was a 6-month prep there where I was like, we're not doing anything, before I actually fell pregnant with my now 6-year-old. But yeah, I guess, it was something that both my partner and I were like, it just makes sense to actually commit this time to ensuring that our bodies are the best. And we also, like in meeting my partner, which we met like 12, 13 years ago, what drew me to him, or what drew us together, was our passion for health and how kind of extreme, I guess, we were.
They were really out there. Talia and I have known each other a long time, and they were out there.
I feel like I'm a bit more balanced now. But
She'll drink a gin.
Yeah, I'll drink the odd gin, maybe 2 a year. But yeah, so we already were doing, like, we'd already done a lot of fasting and detox and all that kind of stuff. But going in, we were like, okay, I want to just ensure that every organ is amazing in our endocrine system. So we like focused months on like each organ and working with that. And a big part for me, I had like PCOS, dysmenorrhea, amenorrhea, all the things. So a big part of my preconception journey was actually just being so in tune with my cycle that I didn't have any of those things. And going into my first pregnancy, I had nothing, no signs of anything with my hormonal system. Like I actually don't even attribute PCOS to myself anymore. I know the medical system says you can't cure that. They say that with a lot of things. I truly believe you can cure anything and totally cured it. So, yeah. It was definitely, and my partner, you know, and this is what, so the book, our preconception book, yes, we talk a lot about egg health and women, but we also have a huge section for men because like we've said, you know, like 50% of the DNA is going to be the partner. So why wouldn't you want that to be the best possible? Yes, they're not carrying the child, we get that, but, you know, they're contributing so much. And of course, why wouldn't they want to be the best versions of themselves going into parenthood? Because as we all know, parenthood is a pretty crazy mirror and it continually asks you to step up. And if you are already in a space where that's not part of your reality, I don't know how you cope, honestly. Yeah.
It's so interesting because like all other animals do that in a way. It's just not like an educated or an afterthought. It's like if you observe animals, they will literally pick the strongest and the best, and the bird will get the best, put on the best performance and do whatever is necessary to prove that they're the best.
Yeah.
And like this does ripple out into so many more.
Wait, you're talking about the
males,
males, but for the female to choose. Yeah.
Yeah, in nature, like the man will always really have to like perform in a way that attracts her and makes himself worthy enough. And I just feel like this is a women's responsibility too, but it's a pretty bitchy thing to say. I reckon it'll trigger most women. But like we don't typically have any standards left when choosing.
Look, in the Northern Rivers, people just take what they can get.
Let me reframe this. Women
don't have standards.
I'll reframe it. Women don't have standards.
Desperate, all of them.
But guys, I went to the new gym this morning and done.
Let's clarify this.
Lots of men.
Okay, that's good.
Hot men in the baths, sweating,
Jackson,
doing the
stop
thing.
listening,
Yeah. No, he knows already. Babe, I came home. There's so many hot testosterone-filled men at the gym.
Fantastic.
The new gym.
That's
They've been
what
listening
like
to
women
Joe
should be looking for, and I don't think they do anymore. And it's not our fault. It can be, but I just think we're
pill,
totally
has done a
closed
thing.
off to that, and
Done
like
a number on us.
we actually don't vet men, period, as women. Like some do.
Well, there's lots of father wounds floating around.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot there that inhibits the natural process of what preconception probably just was.
Yeah.
From a tribal, not even a tribal.
Sure.
Well, now we've got xenoestrogens and things like the pill, that cloud our judgment. It really clouds.
And it makes women want more feminine men. And
well, that's a whole other topic. The soy boy generation.
Yeah. Have you seen any of Dr. Sarah Hill's work? So she does a lot on like the contraceptive pill and how I was listening to one of her interviews and she was talking about how it doesn't just make women more attractive to more feminine men, but because there's so many women that are more attracted to more feminine men, men have started morphing themselves to become more feminine to then have a higher like success rate in the marriage mark. You know, it's really interesting. You're just like, oh my God.
Well, they say that beta men are better fathers, but alpha men create better children. So there's a bit of like a split in the feminine psyche in relation to that. It's kind of like we want the best of both worlds, you know? But I think we do. Talia can speak more to this because this is more her domain, but obviously like testosterone is a huge issue now. Like it just in the way that we are heavily, like as women, we have a lot of estrogen dominance issues. There is like definitely a testosterone gap in men. And I see it in my own clinic when I do preconception work and I'm talking to them. I'm like, does your partner work out? They're like, no. I'm like, okay, well, like that's the first thing we need to get happening. Because like, you know, testosterone is such a big issue in that regard. Maybe you want to speak to that.
I think on that, you know, I do see that in both parties though too. I think women need to be more in their bodies and more feminine, and men need to be more in their bodies and more masculine. And I talk about this in clinic. It's like we're so in our heads as women a lot of the time too. And actually for that preconception, you just need to come into your bodies more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's a massive.
That's a whole episode.
That's a whole episode. How to be in your body. Well, I mean, society doesn't really promote us being in our body, right? Like, look at this TV, look at this phone, look at this thing, have this pill, you know, like there's so much in regards to getting us out of our bodies. And, you know, then that also comes through in terms of birth. If you're somebody that's disembodied and then you're wanting to have like a natural birth, you're probably going to hit a few blocks around that because there's like a cultural numbness, right? But yeah, there is definitely an imbalance in polarity. I mean, Talia works really with that physical. I work with more of the energetics in clinic. I do work with physical as well.
Work so well.
Yeah, that's why
we have both.
Well, Talia and I both have a good mix of masculine and feminine, I think. You know, and we can all have that in our own selves. But yeah, I see this energetically as that feminine masculine imbalance on an energy level can be a big thing as well. And it's kind of relates back to what we were saying before, the women that overdo. And I said earlier, like I identify more as a masculine woman because I do so much. I personally don't have an issue with it. I do know when to rest, but that's taken me, 10 years to get to that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are all like really important questions, I think. If you're choosing a mate or if you're a woman that's like wants to have a baby at some point, like I would be thinking about these things. Like you can start preconception whenever. I know a 21-year-old that's like so into it. She's been doing it since she was 19 and that's all she talks about. And she does like, Danny, if you're listening, you're a legend. She's doing like preconception circles for maidens. And she hosts these circles for young maidens to get ready for motherhood. It's so cool.
I think what's hilarious is like preconception is really just general health, isn't it? Like
absolutely.
You just like and that's something that we should be encouraging from even like our children.
Yeah.
Like
how
Chloe
is that not a
I,
priority?
Yeah, Chloe and I are like our whole lives are just about keeping our children as healthy as possible because like that is preconception. But like
definitely.
That's just overall health. Like if your fertility is there.
I mean, if we're contrasting between like more tribal communities, it's like they don't have like cheat months or like they're not like, oh, I have to, I'm thinking about having a baby in the next couple of years, so I'm going to stop eating that. It's just like it's just like our lives.
The way of living is to be.
Yeah, it's anti-fertile.
Definitely. I mean, the amount of people that don't even know where their liver is. Yeah. Like, come on.
Well, and this, I don't want to, this is something, again, I spoke to my preconception client about this week, is it's not ever bagging out the woman or the man for this because we're not taught this stuff.
Yeah, it's not our fault.
At the hormonal cycle, the fact that most women don't know that we have 4 phases, it's not your fault because you were never taught that unless you are the kind of person who seeks that information,
or your
which
parents
we
were
probably, I would say we all are.
Oh, mate, I'm only just really learning about it properly now.
Yeah.
Which is like we were literally
and that's how
talking about
Margot
it
came into the world.
Exactly, because Keshia did not know about her freaking phases.
Sorry,
this is
Margot.
where I'm on the other side of it.
Just
And
teaching me.
I really wanted a third, and my partner was like, "Oh, I'm not sure." And I was like, damn it, I'm not going to be able to fall pregnant accidentally because he knows I know my shit too well in this area. So I've really got to convince him good.
I get a certain look in my eye. Like I'm ovulating at the moment. Yesterday he was like, what's up? I'm like, what's up? It's that one time this month.
You know it.
You know it. You could see the ovulatory glare. Hey. And that's how we got pregnant.
And love it. And I guess that's, again, like going back to our books, that's where we chat about so much of this stuff, but really simply because this is the stuff that you're not taught and we want you to know this stuff so you have better education about yourself because is there anything more powerful than actually understanding your body and yourself?
No, I don't think there is, to answer your question.
Yeah.
If you have a whole generation of women that are doing that, then they're going to change the world, basically. And so you think about things like xenoestrogens and the pill and all of that, like it dampens a woman's sense of empowerment and a sense of being in her body. And when you don't have that in the way and then women are empowered, we all know that women are the ones that are going to change the world, obviously.
And I think we're all under like a cloud of false sense of empowerment at the moment.
Definitely.
Which is a segue into our next conversation, which I'm not going to touch on right now because it'll open up a whole can of shit right now. But like, I think we genuinely feel empowered because we can do shit, or there's like this whatever we believe is women killing it, or like, you know, it's so not that. It's like
being in the body, dealing with your trauma.
Knowing your body and actually relying on yourself to do the things that we need to do, and not really outsourcing that shit.
Well, not numbing out. Like a lot of what I see in clinic is like women that have a really numb womb and they're spending all this time trying to get pregnant, and never even spoken to their womb once in their entire life, except for maybe when they've got a painful period and they hate their womb or something like that, you know? Because like I was saying before, I've got more of that energetic or like shamanic lens of preconception care, but you know, it's like womb forgiveness. Like, can you forgive your womb for having endometriosis? Or can you like forgive your lineage for giving you endo? Because obviously something like endo is generally down the mother line.
We actually did speak about endo quite a bit, like we have touched on it in previous episodes, and there is such a strong link between sexual assault and endo. Do you remember the numbers that Holly gave us?
It's like 71% or something of
That
women
makes sense.
who have endo have experienced some kind of sexual assault.
Yeah, it's internalized anger a lot of the time as well.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, but these are also questions like for preconception. It's like if you don't even have a relationship with your womb, like you've never spoken to your womb before, and you're going month after month after month, and whether that's like, hey, am I ovulating? Hey, am I in follicular? Or hey, have I like not dealt with my anger towards my mum or my dad or whatever? Like these things can inhibit fertility as well. I mean, I could talk about this literally all day, but yeah, it's like really important to open up the lens that like, you know, our womb is not just a physical thing, it's an emotional thing, it's an energetic thing, it's a spiritual thing and mental as well.
It really is just like peeling back the layers and becoming super in tune with what's happening. Like from an itchy head is something, like knowing that and being conscious of that is kind of not obsessing over it, because I feel like there's a lot of people who obsess over absolutely everything, but just the awareness of it that's not controlling you, but the awareness of stuff.
And again, that comes back to having education, like what's in our books.
Exactly. So go buy the books.
They look really nice on a coffee table.
They're beautiful, and the imagery in them is fantastic.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of you listening who there's actually a few people who have been on this podcast in these books.
There you go.
And then
they are all
listeners,
local.
And then women who have been part of our things, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's so nice.
So it's full circle here.
Yeah.
Get the books.
Yeah.
Go buy them.
Thanks for your beautiful images.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I feel like we could chat for days, but I feel like this conversation I've loved this better than
I'm
first.
glad we did it again.
Glad we did.
it
This is good. I think we're all like friends now. We're drinking a cup of tea, sharing over our bonded pimples, you know.
I don't have any pimples. I'm absolutely perfect.
She's perfect.
My face
Chloe's
is perfect.
Her baby is an angel.
Although I'm sweating, like I have severe underboob sweat. So
I can't
if
tell
that makes
you.
anyone feel better.
I'm just waiting to see
The
this
saggy
footage when
boobies are
I go to
waterfalls.
edit, and I've just got like got a little bit of cleave.
And
And
So
there's
is
your
Ollie.
sauna without having a sauna. We've all just had a sauna.
Isn't it
All
perfect.
wonderful? I
It's
know.
always so balmy here. Like it.
So if anyone wants to find you guys, Caitlin, Talia, do you want to share what you do, how people can get in touch, and where to get the book?
Yes. So you can buy the book online, nourishingthosewhonurture.com. Also, we're in a few stores locally, but only if you're really in the northern New South Wales, you're going to find it.
We are getting there, Australia, but Talia and I are slow.
Yeah.
And if you do know a good bookshop and you're listening in another town or another city, please get in touch with us on our Instagram because we would love to talk with other people in other places.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can find both of our tags underneath the Nourishing Those Who Nurture Instagram. And I'm a clinical nutritionist and Caitlin is a lot of things. You can share what you are.
Caitlin's a whole lot.
Look, I'm
You're
too
a
much
lot in a
woman
good
and I'm
way.
okay with it, actually. I'm totally fine with it. I'm a women's kinesiologist. I'm starting to open up my books for baby kinesiology next year as well because mummies and babies are one being. I work from my home clinic in the Northern Rivers and I also have a background in shamanism and I have a background in doula work as well, but I'm not like working as a doula at the moment, but more in postpartum or preconception education. Yeah.
Amazing. Excellent.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank
again.
you.
And and reiterating some of this information. It is such a wholesome chat. I love it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Lots of layers.
We appreciate you guys.
Lots of layers. We
Yeah,
could go so
thanks.
deep on so many things.
Maybe we'll come back for round 3.
Oh, I know.
Not because this
Yeah, I
podcast
know.
didn't work,
Not because the
because
hard
you
drive
want us
failed.
back again.
Hey guys, we're actually not doing it again.
Don't. All right. Thank you everyone for sticking around and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the Road to Wisdom podcast. To join the journey, you can follow us on Instagram at theroadtowisdom.podcast and at www.theroadtowisdompodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. We look forward to seeing you next week with more juicy content.